Welcome back to Punk Rock Theologian for the second of our Real Question series, which is a quick reminder, send me questions. Give me things that you're really wondering about, that you struggle to understand, that you're not sure how this whole thing works. I'm not saying I've got the answers, but I love trying to find them, and we can work through this stuff together. And for today, I'm going to look at the single most common thing that comes up on this channel all the time since the beginning, and it has absolutely nothing to do with theology. It's about my hair. People are like, oh, why the Mohawk? And it's like, feel like that should have been obvious. But anyway, really, the simple answer of all of it is I have a Mohawk because that's kind of my personality. I like punk rock. I like the metal music scene. And in that environment, the Mohawk is not this crazy weird thing. I get a lot of compliments when I'm at concerts and festivals and stuff. The Mohawk fits there, and that's just me. And so if that's as much attention span as you've got, there's the answer. That's why I have a Mohawk. But I want to dig a little bit deeper because, like, I really do get lots of comments and stuff like this, and it's just so many of them have nothing at all to do with anything I'm saying. It's just people feel the need to make fun of my hair, which, for starters, is kind of funny because the reason a Mohawk was even part of the punk culture is that it sticks out. It's never been supposed to fit in. It's supposed to be a thing that people don't always get it. When you have a Mohawk, you know up front that there's going to be more people who don't like it than people that do. Yeah, but for the sake of this channel, for my mission of what I believe Jesus has called me to do with my life, it comes down to Romans 12:2 that says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And I believe way too many people in the church world read that and say, oh, don't conform to the nasty, dirty world out there. Conform to us. Conform to what we do and the way this church is and look like us. This is what it's supposed to be. That's assuming that you've got it right. We're supposed to conform to Jesus. That's the only thing that we conform to. Go read the Gospels. Jesus did not conform to anything. All Jesus did was follow what the Father told him to do. He made a lot of waves. But coming back to Romans 12:2, that verse has from the beginning been the backbone of this channel because Christianity was never about looking the part. You can look real good on the outside and be a train wreck on the inside. We all know that to be true. Conformity is external, but transformation is internal. And when transformation is the real goal, which according to Romans 12:2 it is, then your appearance can really be more of a tool. It's not the point. This is what we saw Paul doing. He described it in 1 Corinthians chapter 9. He's been talking about how he was in all these different situations. And like when I'm with people who are all about obeying the law, I'll go ahead and obey the law to be among them and relate to them. When I'm with people that don't know anything about the law, I don't worry about the law so I can be among them and reach them. In verse 22, he says, I have become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I might save some. The thing to recognize is Paul was not chasing approval. He wasn't running over here going, oh, I'll be like you. Do you like me? Oh, I can be like you. Do you like me? He's not trying to fit in anywhere. He's just trying to find common ground with different people no matter where he is. He's looking for access way more than acceptance. This idea of being all things to all people does not mean pleasing everyone. I'm pretty sure we all know that that's impossible. You're never, no matter what decision you make in pretty much anything, you're never going to please everybody. But it does mean being willing to stick out, being willing to look different if it will accomplish something, if it helps someone listen, if it helps them take one step closer to Jesus. I'm not here claiming that God told me to grow a mohawk and this is my calling. But like I said, it's just me. This is my personality. And I'll tell you, one of my very favorite things about having it has been like the expectation subversion that I can do with people. I love walking into like a brand new church or into a Bible study somewhere that people don't know me, and I see the looks that I get. People are like, well, I don't know what's up with this dude. And it's so fun to flip that perception on its head when the Mohawk guy turns out to be the Bible guy. Admittedly, some people never seem to quite be able to reconcile it, and they're like, oh, what's going on? But why the hair, though? But I mean, you now know the answer. I've already explained it. But I really enjoy the people who see that and then go, oh, wow, this guy didn't look like us at all, doesn't fit in here at all, except we have Jesus in common. And so all of a sudden, I do fit in. And that's what it's actually supposed to be like, people. That's why the best thing ever about having this haircut for me has been the demographic that I get the most compliments from is little old church ladies. Never saw that one coming. But I have had so many of these little old ladies walking out of a conservative church, like complimenting my hair, asking to touch it. Like, it's hilarious. I don't know if that was their first impression of me, But once they've seen the guy with the mohawk at the front of the church worshiping Jesus, they recognize that what we have in common is way more important than where we're different. And man, that's spectacular. Because the truth is, far too many people don't do that. And that's not a slam, this is human nature. There's a great story in 1 Samuel 16 that Samuel is a prophet of God. God has sent him to anoint the man that God has already chosen to become the leader of his people, to be the next king. And so it's a big deal. And Samuel comes and finds Jesse's oldest son. And he sees him. He's this tall, strapping guy. He's handsome. And he's like, man, God, you nailed it. This guy is perfect. But in verse 7, we read, "But the Lord said to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I've rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." And I want to look at that verse from both sides. Because I've got stories like those church ladies recognizing that regardless of the outward appearance, the Lord looks at the heart. And in the heart, we're both the same. We're both following Jesus. And that's beautiful. But the truth is also, it says people look at the outward appearance, which means there can be a lot of people, especially those outsiders who don't have this common bond in Jesus yet, that all they see is, well, in this environment, everybody seems to kind of fit the same mold, and I'm not sure that I do. That brings me to another category of comments that I get here. That's people who like the mission, think that I'm doing a good thing, but they're like, you should do something about that hair though. You need to cut that off to like actually reach people or to be taken seriously. Or, the people that you're really trying to reach don't want to hear from a guy with a mohawk, which actually brings the really important question of who is it I'm trying to reach? Just like I said, in some circles, the guy with the mohawk is the guy that people freely talk to. I didn't name this punk rock theologian for nothing. This channel has never been aimed at the clean and tidy Christian aesthetic or the people who are already comfortable in the church. It's aimed at outsiders, people who have questions but don't feel like they belong, don't feel comfortable enough to come in and ask those questions, don't feel like they can come very far in. At most, they can hang out on the fringes and sort of observe from a distance. That's who this channel is for. And I have found that in that audience, the Mohawk helps to lower defenses. Not because it's cool. I'm not cool. Like, have you seen any of my stuff? I'm a big nerd. But because the Mohawk signals that you don't have to fit the perfect mold to be okay here. You certainly don't have to grow a Mohawk too. We're not supposed to all be that. But Colossians 4, 5, and 6 says, be wise in the way you act toward outsiders. Make the most of every opportunity. Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. The Mohawk helps to create opportunities, which in turn puts the pressure on me to be ready for those opportunities. Like it said, to know how to answer, to be sure that I've spent enough time learning from what Jesus says so that I can share that with someone who has questions of their own. In the end, it comes down to a few categories. People who just want to make fun of the Mohawk, which, like I said, a Mohawk was never expected to fit in anyway. And to the people who think that I need to change it, like, you need to recognize there is no such thing as like the correct haircut. There's nothing in scripture that says thou shalt cut your hair this particular style. And I'm not at all sitting here claiming that God told me to grow a mohawk, but I can freely tell you that he's never told me to cut it off. Following the mission is always going to cost somebody's approval. That's what we saw with Paul and his whole thing being all things to all people. Look at his story. The way he reached out to different groups alienated him from other groups. But the mission is what mattered. Reaching the people far from God was so much more important than making sure that everybody liked him. That's what this is to me. My thing is the guy with a mohawk on the internet telling you to read your own Bible instead of listening to an expert. Jesus has a mission for you too. And what matters is going back to Romans 12:2. Don't conform to anybody else's mold. Be transformed by him. Let him show you the truth. Let him show you his plan for you. God's plan for someone else is probably not his plan for you. No matter how big of an impact that person makes, God already made one of those people. He made you something different to accomplish the mission that no one but you is going to accomplish. It's not about deliberately being different or weird to stand out and get attention, but it is about being willing to stand out, being willing not to fit in, if that will help someone else hear the message that matters for all of eternity. The most important thing for me, for you, for every single one of us is not about fitting in. It's about being faithful to what Jesus tells us to do.